Hey everybody, welcome back inside the stash. This is the next video in the series on the Tamiya Honda S600 build that I'm doing. I've had to refilm the beginning of this intro several times because I keep saying we like the Royal, so if I say we somewhere along here, I apologize. I'm really not trying to make it sound like I have a workshop of elves doing this build for me, but it's just sort of a habit when you talk about a show like we do on Fridays, see, because it ends up being the contribution of several people, information-wise. So, at any rate, uh, I've done a bunch of work to it in terms of the build itself, and take a look at what's going to be coming up next with it. So, let me spin the camera around, and we'll take a look. All right, so we have gotten this into primer itself. This is basically the floor pan, which I think is probably the most accurate description we've come up with. This to call it a chassis pan and stuff like that, but really it's the floor pan, because obviously this is the bottom side that it will be facing the table, as it were, and then this side on here is the interior. So really, floor pan, best description I've come up with. Glad I accidentally said that word. So this is, like I said, primer. Basically, the only thing we've really done to this in terms of the build itself would be to install the spare tire holder, or perhaps this would also be considered the gas tank at this point as well. This round piece is a separate part that you install, and then this primer that's on here, a little bit of dirt in there, I can see, you can't see, but I can see from behind the camera. It's just Tamiya fine white primer. It's basically been primered completely on the bottom, and then the front side of the inner wheel wells here is primered, and then the back area back here is also primered. Probably don't even need to do this back here because you're never going to see this again, but the instructions said that, so rather than finding out later, I went ahead and did it. This is still basically raw plastic. There's probably some overspray on here, but mostly it's just still the white plastic. What we're going to end up doing with this is the floor in here is going to be sprayed semi-gloss black. We're going to mask off these front wheel well pieces here, because these kick plates, as well as the parts of the inner fender wells that come in and fill this area in here, are white on the real car. There's sheet metal. The flooring in here is sort of a rubber floor, if you will. And then this area back here, right in this general vicinity here, this will be painted red, because the interior in this car, otherwise, other than the floor itself and the dashboard, is a mix of red and flat base. Basically, there will be a piece that attaches up here that sort of will plug into these holes here, that sort of covers this top part of the fender. It'll also be red as well. This means that I'm going to have to eventually get out the airbrush and sully up the airbrush to do this stuff, but I've got to mask off this area and basically cover the bottom just in case. We also got the inner fender wells themselves into white primer, top and bottom. I'm going to leave both this piece and the bottom of these fender wells in primer, because while the car was unibody and painted the body color, it's not exactly gloss coated, as you see. That's basically how your inner fender wells fit into the floor pan, and that'll give you the idea here. We'll put it back together again of what that's going to more or less look like. You'll never actually even be able to see any of that of this in here unless you would look at it from like way back on an angle. Right in this area here, the pedal assembly actually hangs off of the bottom of the inner fender well. So it's kind of an interesting way of how this kit engineered to go together. The top half here, we're going to go ahead and paint with the actual body color paint, which is still going to be white, but this is just sitting in the primer. And then we have to go back in here and do all this finagling with the wires and stuff, which is something I'm really honestly not looking forward to. But one thing that will be a little bit different with this than I guess could be considered with some of the other builds I've done in the past, or at least experience I've done in the past, is with this being white primer, and then we're going to use Tamiya Pure White TS26 on the body itself. Going back in and detailing this with acrylic paint, I can then go back with just your Tamiya acrylics. I can go back in there with the thinner and clean up any mistakes I make, as far as if I accidentally slop some black on or silver on the white paint. I don't have to worry about the thinner eating the paint, because the paint's lacquer and the acrylic thinner won't really affect it that much. some random pieces and parts that are sort of lying around here. This is basically the front uprights themselves, the front shocks, the steering arm, and what would be the lower A-arms, because when this is mounted, it's going to be mounted this way. These all are just in prep stage. I've got to go over the seams on a few of these things. I've got to paint the CV joint, or not the CV joints, but the boots on the steering arm a different shade of black so that it's not just a uniform gloss like it is right now. And then this is pretty much the first rough-in of the exhaust system itself. The pipes are steel, or what Tamiya euphemistically calls, whoop, that's flat aluminum. That's the wrong color. I just showed you the wrong color. I don't know where I put the other one. Oh, there it is back here. What Tamiya euphemistically calls metallic gray, but it's their steel color. It's the exact same color as the Tamiya, or Tester's steel is. So the pipes themselves are pretty much done. They're going to be the steel color. I've only got one coat of paint on the mufflers and the brackets. The brackets are chrome silver. The muffler itself is going to be flat aluminum. I have to go in and basically recoat these, as well as do some fine detail work with the way the clamps of the muffler and the pipes go together, which is really a neat piece of engraving, but neither here nor there. But that's nice and more or less ready to go. And this is pretty much what we've really been working on in the last couple of days, which is the entire frame and engine and drivetrain assembly for the kit. So the last time you saw this frame, it was still in white plastic. We had talked about adding the dog leg extension back here and how to make sure it lined up properly with the floor pan plate. So obviously we've built the engine, and we've installed the engine and the drivetrain and the transaxle, as well as the swing arms on the rear suspension, as well as the drum brakes for the back here. The engine itself is a combination of, I should really get something to put underneath of this so that you guys aren't, so it's not trying to desperately focus on this. I should have thought of that. Please stand by. There we go. This the engine itself is a combination of flat aluminum and chrome silver. There's some semi-gloss black on here as well. The oil pan itself, it's still insisting on not focusing. Come on, why you gotta be like that? Why you gotta treat me like that, camera? There we go. So basically, it actually does show on the camera a little bit better than I thought it would. The Honda script here is in chrome silver, while the cylinder head itself is in flat aluminum. You can see there actually is a contrast in color and texture. On the real car, this area up front on the front cover that's black right here would be the distributor, and the spark plugs themselves are underneath this cover. So basically the spark plug wires will run from here under here, and then this cover itself is just basically a plate with a Honda logo on it that covers the spark plugs. If you look at some reference photos of this engine, you'll find ones that are missing the plate and the you can see the spark plug wires themselves. Everything, like I said, pretty much everything else on here is flat aluminum. There's some titanium gold on the carburetors themselves, and then the air box on this side is a split between chrome silver and flat aluminum as well. There's really not a whole heck of a lot to talk about on this engine. It's pretty much a multi-piece affair, as you would expect. That doesn't want to focus. It's a nice. It builds up nice. It's kind of a unique car anyway, because this is essentially a motorcycle engine set transversely with an actual prop shaft out the back of the transmission. The rear end, which has a hole in it, but you'll never see this side of it ever again, is mostly flat aluminum. There's some steel on the mounts themselves. The swing arms are semi-gloss black with flat aluminum on the drum brakes as well. And like I said, we left the seams in the cases because, as we talked about in the last video, the seams are there in real life because the cases are actually two-piece cases. There's a chain drive in here if you didn't watch our last video. In the real car, there's a chain drive inside these swing arms, just like a motorcycle would be. It's a kind of an interesting thing. The engine drives the transmission, drives the drive shaft, that drives chain drives that drive the wheels. But all in all, it's a unique design. I don't think it's on any other car of the era necessarily. It's a Honda specialty, as it were. And then when it's mounted up, let me grab the chassis, the floor plan. Well, I can't say floor pan all of a sudden. I keep saying want to say floor plan. Anyway, so this is what it'll end up looking like when it's installed, as far as that goes. And then your, let me get this in here as well. This is going to be your exhaust system. It's going to sit like so. You have to basically glue these end pieces on because you don't necessarily want to just sit on the parts, but you get the general drift of what this is going to end up looking like when it's all done and completed. Like I said, this pretty much, we'll install the front suspension itself as well as the exhaust without putting the chassis together like this, so that everything lines up and you're not, trying to sit here and glue things down with everything all conglomerated like this. But this is, like I said, basically what you're going to wind up with as far as the bottom goes. And then this part goes like up here. And then obviously your front end, other pieces will go in there. And then there are drum brakes just like these for the front. And then we'll mount the wheels up. I have the wheels themselves are in their initial coat of silver paint, and then you will mount these hubcaps to them. Hubcaps have their first coat of clear red on the hubcaps themselves. I noticed doing the reference photos of these that these logos in here are red, just like the actual logos on the front of the car will be. I'll go back in here with a little bit of thinner and clean off the red off of the actual Honda logo so that it'll be chrome, so there's just be red in the recess. But other than that, those will mount to the wheels, and we'll have this up on, we'll have the frame itself basically up on the on its wheels, because like I said, you install this last. You put this frame on into the car after it's already built. Other agenda items here, we'll have to paint the radiator parts. Will have to get painted. They'll go on the frame last, and then the interior pieces. These two pieces will be semi-gloss black with, obviously we'll have to detail out the dashboard. These parts themselves will be red with chrome accents, and then this piece right here, as we talked about when we did the video of the model itself. This part right here is the part that goes over the back fenders. It sort of makes the back of the Roadster interior. This will be red. Battery will be black and white when we get it done. And then really you gotta get the seats being red, the steering wheel detailed, paint the down top because I don't plan to put the I may paint the hardtop afterwards just to have it to sort of keep the dust down, but at the same time, this kit doesn't have side windows, so there's no way to sort of seal the interior, so I'm just going to mostly display it and with the top down. I may do, like I said, may do the up top at some point in the future, because there's some chrome trim with this and stuff like that, but it's not integral to what I'm doing with the build at the moment. So, like I said, I might do it at some point. If I do that, I won't glue the top down in. I'll just put it on there and leave it so I can swap it out if I want to. And then the only really other things that are on here, it's like the hood, and then you see the parts for the front disc brakes, and there's the front, and there's the wheels that'll, like I said, the hubcap goes right over the middle of them. There's no lug detail, so there's no point in really doing anything to those rather than really painting the rim face itself. And then we're pretty much done with this runner. There's the brake pieces are here, and then the stick shift and the cap for the radiator. So we're chugging right along. It'll just be a matter of time of sort of getting time to mix paint and fire the airbrush up and do all the stuff with that. There are some pieces on the chrome tree, like the wipers, the mirror bracket itself, the rear view mirror. These four pieces at least need to be de-chromed, because when you end up looking at the reference pictures for the actual car, the stand for the rear view mirror as well as the rear view mirror are just like aluminum. I'm assuming this is probably more of an aluminum piece of plastic, and this is an aluminum rod. They're not chrome by any stretch of the means, and obviously neither are the windshield wiper arms, and especially not the windshield wiper blades. Pretty much everything else I think we're going to go ahead and leave chrome, because despite my admonitions, as it were, to leave the parking brake chrome. The parking brake is really chrome in real life. I may take it off here and dechrome it just to get the seam off of the parking brake itself, but then I have to go back in with Molotol and re-chrome it, basically, because, like I said, in reference photos of the actual interior, which should pop up on the screen right now, there are, like I said, this is chrome itself. So we'll do some dechroming. Got a few other things I need to dechrome and a couple other kits, so I'm going to just throw everything in a vat and be done with it. The only other real thing we have, and this is not pertinent to this Honda S600 build, but if you've been watching along with other things that I've been poking along with in the past, when I painted the frame, I also painted the inner fender wells on the Acura NSX build, and we have those installed on the front half of the suspension. And next we need to go into building the interior itself for the Acura, because the interior has parts of the mounting brackets to insert the engine into the Acura, which I'm not sure I've shown that recently as well, if I could find it without digging too much. Of course, it's at the bottom of the box. This is now how the Acura engine sits. I'm not sure how well the variations will show here, but there's a couple of different metallics at play on the exhaust pipes themselves versus the engine itself. I know some people will be like, oh, look at that seam on the transmission. You're never going to see this again. Legitimately, the only thing you're going to see of the engine is this piece that will sit on top of the intake pendulum right here. So, but that gives you a good a good side-by-side of basically what amounts to, I'm trying to think of how many years this would be. That'd be basically 50 years of development. This is a 6-cylinder engine in the 2017, 2016 Acura NSX, and here's your little 4-banger 591 or 597 cc motorcycle engine that is in the 1965 Honda S600. So we've come a little way in terms of size and output, obviously. But yeah, so that's where we're at with the Honda. So we'll catch up with you guys in the next video, and we'll see you guys as we take this back apart so that nothing breaks. We'll see you guys on the other side.